Those first deals were horrible. They were horrible. They were absolutely
Usually
horrible.
the case.
Yeah. So, I needed a place to live. And so it was very utilitarian. I had to have a place to live. And, working the software job, I had to find a place to live. So I find a place to live and I'm like, okay, cool. I've got a place to live. And I go to try and get a mortgage because I was able to save my money back up because I was saving to, put a down payment on a house. I'm 23 years old. I'm ready to go buy something. And the loan officer laughs at me. He goes, dude, do you know how to do math? You can't afford this place. And I was like, what do you mean I can't afford this place? He goes, you don't have income for long enough. And it's generally speaking, it's too much. And it's going to be all your money for a down payment. And I was like, all right. I said, all right. So then how do I do it, smart guy? Since you know all the answers. And he goes, well, I mean, you got to get a renter in there. And I go, what do you mean? He goes, rent out a room. And I go, okay, I'm listening. And then I put out call all my friends, because I don't think text messaging was much of a thing then. Call all my friends. And I'm like, hey, listen, would you want to live in this area? And a couple of them were like, yeah. And then one of them was like, yeah, in fact, my lease is coming up and my lease is, $1,400 a month or something for, whatever we're living in. And I was like, this is a nice luxury condo, like on the water. It's going to be expensive, but we go back and forth. And sure enough, he signs on for $1,000. My mortgage payment was going to be $2,400. I was paying $1,400 a month to live there. He was paying $1,000, but I was living in a condo on the water where everybody in the building was old enough to be my parents.
Yeah.
I'm doing it at, 23 years old. And then that just continued when I then got out of that house and I sold it, I got hit with a $70,000 condo fee assessment because they used the wrong material on the outside of the building. And so it was all deteriorating from the salt air. And so I literally went from, I'm going to make 80 grand to I made $10,000. I was going to make 80 and I made 10 instead. And so I was like, all right, that's fine. I can still buy something else for 3.5% down. So I did. I bought another property and then signed in a couple of tenants that were going, again, roommates. They're going to live with me. And then I was like, hey, this actually really works. Like this could be a business thing. And so that's what ended up happening. I am one of 7 people on the planet that has not read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Haven't read the book. But I'm one of those 7 people that haven't done it. And people are like, well, why don't you read it now? And I go, no, I can't. I got to die on that hill. I haven't read it. I won't read it. I was like, I don't care.
It's funny because I read it recently and it doesn't have the same impact. For some reason, it's when you're new, and it's the first time you're kind of experiencing that mental model. It's like, it has this huge impact. And I had Kiyosaki on my podcast actually for the 100th episode. And I asked him, why does it, have that impact on us? Because everybody comes on and says, oh, the same thing, and he said, when you figure that out, give me a call. Cause I've been trying to, catch lightning in a bottle again ever since. And it hasn't worked. So.
Yeah, exactly. I think he has enough gold and silver to sink a battleship. So I think he'll be okay. Not to mention all the property. But yeah, I just kind of found the model worked. And so as I was working and I said, I love my career. It was paying me a lot of money. I want to be able to continue to work in my job and grow my career. And it took, 10 years and I got into executive management. And then I was in executive management for about 14 years before I retired. I retired last year from it, but I really loved my job, really enjoyed it. But rentals is what allowed me to essentially walk away at 46 and say, I'm done. I want to be at home with my kids. But how you get all the way there is literally by just starting with one. And you start with one and we house hack. You house hack as well. I mean, you have an Airbnb on the other side of your place, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So,
in our barn here.
Yeah. Like, why not? Like, I'm not so special that I can't share a wall or a driveway.
I tell people it's the single best personal finance decision almost anyone can make to eliminate your cost of living forever. Yes. Because it just pays you over and over again. It's not like you get this one-time payment. Right. Like when that $2,000 or $3,000 a month mortgage is gone because someone else is paying it, it changes things.
Absolutely. And I think the way that you've done it is even better. I think you guys have, kind of supercharged it, right? Which is we have our own dwelling, we have our own space, we have our own barn. This is on the other side of a barn. Like we're not managing it or taking care. We don't have to do anything for that. And I think that that's the key. I think you can start with the roommate thing. And then once you get old enough, that's not cool anymore. And then you just get to renting out the other side. And then you get to, hey, I have my own personal residence, but I have an asset that's there as well. We're going to eventually do that with our house. We want to build, a couple ADUs there that we can actually either put family in, or we're in a country setting where we abut 500 acres. it's pretty easy where if people want to go get right with nature, then they can do that there. So yeah, to that fast forward from ninth grade dropout to that's how I got into real estate investing was I wanted something safe. I wanted something that I couldn't be cheated like the stock market. If you're not in Manhattan having dinners and hobnobbing with these people, you're at a disadvantage. You just are. You're at a disadvantage.
Yeah. It's interesting how politicians' portfolios grow so much faster. I think they're just skilled investors. They teach them an investment course. Maybe Warren Buffett comes in after they get elected and teaches them how to invest. That's probably what explains it. It's nothing to do with insider trading.
It's a miracle. They go to Congress and they're making they're worth 150 grand, and then within 10 years they're worth 20 million.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Amazing. What
Very
benefits?
Skilled.
What benefits?
So I want to talk about the deals that you've done, but I also, you mentioned something. So you mentioned that you left your corporate job a year ago, and I'm curious. A lot of people obviously have that as a goal. This is called living off rentals. So that was something that we did eventually. And so for you, what was that like? Did you set like a line in the sand of like, I'm going to get to this amount of cash flow first, or, what was the marker for you that you felt comfortable leaving? And then did it go as planned, or do you feel like you could have left sooner, or you should have held out longer, or how'd that work for you?
I mean, those are all amazing questions. So I left, it was the Valentine's Day present to myself in 2024. That was my present to myself, was you get to retire. And so how I got there was I could have retired at 35. I had enough income off the rentals. But I loved what I did. I loved what I did. I loved who I worked for. I loved who I worked with. And so I was really blessed at the situation that I had. And so, never to look a gift horse in the mouth. It wasn't only about money. It was about, do I enjoy what I'm doing? Is this fun? Am I having fun? And that was kind of that. And I loved to win, and I got to be an integral part to an organization because I was in charge of global sales and strategy for the company. And so I got to be an integral part of the success. I touched 86% of the revenue that came in the door there. Wow. And so it was a lot of fun to be, working on all those and helping all those different hospitals that I was helping in what I was doing. So I really enjoyed that piece. And then, went to ownership and just said, hey, I think I'm ready to be done. I was kind of done up here. I was just kind of like, I feel like I want just something new and something different. And so it's cool, but I don't want to abandon them because they were loyal to me and they gave me a shot, and I didn't want to be disloyal to them. So we then put the company up, and a year later, the company sells. I'm enjoying my time in the company. It gets bought by a big, huge hedge fund. And they're, telling me all the things, and you're amazing. And we see you as a management guy, and, being able to come on and turn around other companies. And we love that about you. And I was like, that sounds all super awesome. And then they negotiated my contract just after the first of the year. And they were like, well, we don't want you to look at it as a pay cut. We just want you to look at it as an adjustment. And I was like, I bet you don't want me to look at it as a pay cut.
An adjustment in the downward direction.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, it is adjusting, just not in a way that I would ever subscribe to. So I literally walked out of my home office and I went to my wife and I just said, I think I'm going to retire tomorrow. And she goes, are you joking? And I go, nope. She goes, okay. I was like, that's it? And she goes, yeah, like, our finances, the building. She's like, the business we built. She's like, whatever. I was like, man, I was expecting to have a bigger conversation about that, but I guess not. And so literally the next morning I called my boss and I said, I need 10 minutes of your time. And he said, sounds good. And we had it on a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. And I told him, I said, I'm going to retire. And he was like, what? I said, I'm going to retire. He goes, what? Said it 4 times. And he's like, I don't think you don't retire. Like, people at your age don't retire. And I was like, I'm not quitting. I'm retiring. I'm not going to go somewhere else. I'm leaving the business, the industry. And I did. I left. And I could have done it 11 years earlier. I'm glad that I didn't. I just enjoyed my time. And then it was really, I felt like, and I knew what ended up happening was I was going to retire 2 years earlier and my daughter got cancer. And that flipped our world upside down. And so we needed the healthcare, we needed the support, we needed all the things that we needed in order to be able to go through that. And so she delayed it a couple of years, but that was God's plan, and the delay. And so it just came to that on the other side where it's like, nah, it's time to move on and do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Wow. Yeah. And what I mean, it's so great to be able to be in that position. I've talked to other people about that too. I just had uh, a student of mine on the podcast recently who worked in a tech job when we started working together, and he was real worried because at that time tech was kind of struggling a little bit, and there was a lot of layoffs with all the big tech companies, and he was a little concerned, and so started building up cash flow. And then when he came on the podcast, he said, I asked him, when are you going to get to financial freedom? And he's like, well, I'm there, but I like what I do.
Yes.
And so, but that you carry yourself different, I think, when you
Yes.
come to work every day, knowing that I'm here because I want to be here, not because you're forcing me to be here. And I'm not going to do anything that I don't agree with just because I have to, And so, so to be in that position is just, I don't think people understand the freedom that gives you. What's life been like since you left? I mean, what's changed, or how do you, what do your days look like now?
I spent a lot more time buying baseball cards.
Yeah. Nice.
And so the YouTube channel was part of that. It was part of the transition, right? I never wanted to do a YouTube channel, but I was watching this one guy and I just said, man, you need an East Coast perspective because I'm tired of listening to all these boneheads out on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And he was laughing. I was like, it's just a different market in California. It's just completely different. And in every market, people make money. It's just how you crack the code for how to make money in that market. And so the days mostly consist of now, I mean, I run my entire company from my phone. That's it. I only need my phone to run my entire company. I have one employee to manage 53 buildings and we're now 153 units and 400 tenants. So that's how we manage everything. I just manage it from my phone, but it's really systems and processes. What we teach a lot about in the course is everybody can teach you how to buy something. Most people never spend the time to teach people how to manage it. And so I remember being at the closing table, my first property that I bought that was only to be a landlord. And I literally said out loud in front of the attorney and in front of the seller, I was a little bit embarrassing, and in front of the agents too. I was like, oh shit, I'm a landlord. Now what? And no one had any contact information for the tenants. No one had any of the, hey, was this permit finished? Or, hey, was this, there were a bunch of loose ends and I was the idiot who just kept on robo signing. So I'm cranking out the robo sign. And I was realizing I didn't have anything that I needed to be an actual good landlord. And so I've spent the last, 24 years perfecting the craft, gotten really good at it, but that's how I can run my entire company from my phone. So, I'm never further than a phone away from being able to solve a problem because we have systems, processes, and people in place that allow me to kind of do whatever I want. And I just have to, I like to say I'm the world's best paid professional email forwarder. Cause that's all I really do. I just forward stuff to making sure that it goes to the right people and it gets taken care of. But, I think everybody can be in that position. And I remember how hard it was when I started and how lost I felt buying my first one. And I was like, I bought my first one. And then you're like, oh my word, now the work begins. I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
I have no idea where to begin. Like if something breaks tomorrow, I have no idea how to fix it or who to call to get it fixed. I was in deep trouble. So that's why we kind of did the course, is because I think the buy side happens here. And I think that the management side is what happens here, right? For 20 years, you're managing that asset in most cases, but for 60 days is what it took you to find it, do the deal, and close it. So, but everybody focuses on the buy. What they need to focus on is the management of the asset. And people need to start using that. Stop using property management, start using asset management, because that's what you're doing. This is an asset. Yeah. If you don't properly take care of it, in 20 years, you're going to have something, you're going to have a property that isn't worth as much.
Yeah.
In 20 years, I want to have an asset that has that updated roof, the updated heating system. We've done all the different things, maybe kitchens, this, that, and the other. And now my asset's worth a whole lot more money, and the tenants paid for that to be upgraded through the years. And now I have an asset that I can sell, trade, or continue to hold on to and continue to bring money in on.
Yeah. Yeah, you can buy the best deal in the world, but if it's not operated correctly, it
Correct.
can lose money every single month. So, yeah, that's such a great point. I'm curious what you feel like a deal is. Like as you've expanded and grown, what metric? Everyone answers this differently, and so I'm curious from your perspective, like what makes you pull the trigger on a new deal?
Wow, that's a great question. You're really good at this. What makes me pull the trigger on a deal? So I like to keep my guys busy in the wintertime. So I almost always will buy some really inexpensive single family house to make sure that they have work all winter long.
Mm,
I like to make sure to take care of the people who take care of me.
yeah.
So that means making sure that if they're like, hey, I had a job cancel or I had this happen or whatever, and our carry costs over the course of an entire winter, not the big a deal. Now we can bang that house out in 30 days if we wanted to, but we take 6 months. Why do we take 6 months? Because I want to make sure my guys have work in the wintertime, that I can always point them over there and go, hey, you can go over to the project house and do X, Y, or Z.
Yeah,
And so they do that, but it
that's
takes
great.
6 months instead of 30 days to do that. So I get a reduced rate, but they still get to make some money through the wintertime when they have dry spells. But when I look at market, and so that's for kind of keeping the guys busy in the wintertime. When I look at a deal that we're going to hold, very often now it's a deal that when you get to the size that we don't need the next deal. We need another great deal.
Mm,
So when people say, how big are you going to get? I don't know. Depends on how many great deals I can find. So really every deal that we do now is one that just comes across. We are like, holy cow, is the cash printer in the basement. And so we just bought a building. We bought it from a city, and it was an old retired police station that was just sitting there rotting. We were able to buy that 8,000 square foot building for only $200,000. We will spend $1 million. We'll spend $1 million redoing that building, but when it's all said and done, that building will rent out for about $18,000 a month with debt of about $7,800.
wow,
Nothing
that's
wrong with
great
some
cash flow.
$10,000 buildings in your portfolio.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
It can afford a lot of life. So what I look for now is kind of those unique, weird opportunities where somebody's just like completely fatigued and they're just absolutely done. But we're not out there actively going, hey, we really need to find the next deal. Like we just don't really do a whole lot of that. It's much more you build up like you build up your reputation. You see enough things hit MLS, you see enough agents, you see enough other local investors, and that eventually just starts to, you're like, oh, wow, that deal kind of sticks out as something interesting. So now we play a lot more of the zoning game, where it's like, ooh, no one's using. So we bought a piece of property. It had a duplex on it. So because it's not just raw land, we could actually finance it because it had a duplex on it. And we do the research, or I do the research, and I find that it can actually take a 20 unit building. And right
Wow.
now it's got a duplex on it.
Yeah.
So I go through the process and I'm like, yeah, so we buy it. We make a strong offer. We weren't the top offer. I teach something called the reverse offer strategy, which I'm rarely the top offer, but I always win deals that I want. And it's the reverse offer strategy, which is a long process. But long story short is it's basically engaging on a human level and having the agent describe to you what the 3 top priorities are of the seller.
Mm.
No one ever asks that. Everyone's just
So
like,
you go directly to the listing agent.
yes.
Yeah.
Yep. Or even with my agent, we just sit down. We just say, hey, we just want a quick 10-minute meeting with you if we could.
Okay.
It's like, yeah, sure. So we just do a joint phone call. We just say, what are the 3 most important things to the seller? And they're just like, what do you mean? How do you not know this? You're the listing agent. Like, do they need to leave quickly? Do they need help emptying the house? Are they worried about repairs? Do they not want to do inspections? What are they worried about? What are the 3 things? And we did that deal buying that piece of property because the woman was like, I have no idea. I've been here for 30 years. I have no idea how to get dumpsters and how to get it unloaded. We literally told her, we said, we'll get you dumpsters. We put 2 40-yard dumpsters on site. We said, she's like, everybody wants to close in 2 weeks. She was like, I really need 90 days. We gave her 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
And then we said, after the 90 days, do this. Tag everything, basically take everything that you're not going to keep, and everything that you leave behind, we'll fill the dumpsters with. And that's what we did.
Nice.
And that's how, and we were the number 9 priced deal. We were the number 9 offer. But we won because we took into account that she was just a person and that we're just people, and we wanted to lighten the load for her and not get her stressed out. but we bought that asset, and that was a duplex. I paid $227,000 for it, and as a duplex now, it's worth 500. But as the piece of land that I can build a 20-unit property on, that the agent didn't do a very good job of doing the research to find out what the zoning was, it's $1 million piece of land.
Jeez.